This is Mac OS Ken.
Big Tech goes bigger on AI. Google and Mozilla rev their engines for iPhone. And for sale, one Apple Museum starter kit. It is Wednesday, the 8th of February, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. At the end of 2022, Daily Tech News shows Tom Merritt joined me on the Daily Observations podcast with something like a prediction. The way he saw it, we would look back on 2022 as the year when generative artificial intelligence, or AI, changed everything. Yes, I'm putting everything in quotes. Everything is a big term. But we've got AI making art, AI writing letters, AI writing code, and in a big way this week, AI answering questions. Quick, somebody ask it who it thinks it is. According to a piece from Mac Rumors, both Google and Microsoft are folding AI responses into their respective search results. On Monday, the piece says Google introduced Bard, powered by Google's language model for dialogue applications. The piece says Bard is an experimental conversational AI service for Google Search that is set to become available to the public in the coming weeks. Evening came and morning followed the second day. On Tuesday, the same Mac Rumors piece says Microsoft announced plans to add conversational AI tools to both the Bing search engine and the Edge browser. That piece had Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella saying AI will fundamentally change every software category, starting with the largest category of all, search. Where, one may wonder, is Apple in all of this? Well, we know the company is AI aware. On last week's earnings call, Wells Fargo analyst Aaron Rakers asked Apple CEO Tim Cook for his thoughts on the role of AI in Apple's strategy, particularly around the services segment and the monetization. So gauche. After pointing to AI-enabled functions such as fall detection, crash detection, and ECG readings, Apple CEO said, "We see an enormous potential in this space to affect virtually everything we do. It's obviously a horizontal technology, not a vertical, and so it will affect every product and every service that we have." Now, if you're looking for a more concrete answer, you need to be an Apple employee. 9to5Mac says the Cupertino company is thought to be holding its annual in-house AI summit this month. Just about every article about it had less to do with the summit than the fact that the summit will apparently be an in-person affair, though employees who can't make it to the Steve Jobs Theater will be able to stream it. Events like these have been socially distanced since the start of the pandemic in 2020. The focus of most of the summit articles I saw was given to wondering whether product intros and WWDC would go back to fully in-person rather than the live audience video hybrid such events have been since last summer's WWDC. As for the substance of the AI summit, consult your crystal ball. 9to5Mac says it's hard to say what to expect from it. After all, it is a private event for employees. However, Apple has been adding a lot of AI and machine learning-based features to its devices recently. 9to5Mac sounds a hopeful note of hearing more at WWDC this year. Personally, I'm hoping to hear from leakers. And if you're wondering, I'm not too proud to beg. What do Google and Mozilla have in common? Well, lots of stuff, I suppose, though I'm thinking in this case about the designs they have on iPhone. Apple Insider has written up an internal initiative by Google's Chromium team, while the Register has written up one from Mozilla. Both are said to be working on web browsers for iOS that would not use WebKit. going under the hood a bit. While one can get web browsers in the App Store that are not Safari, they sort of kind of are Safari below the surface. The way the Register explains it, the major browser makers, Apple, Google, and Mozilla, each have their own browser rendering engines. Apple's Safari is based on WebKit, Google's Chrome and its open-source Chromium Foundation is based on Blink, forked from WebKit a decade ago, and Mozilla's Firefox is based on Gecko. But to be in the App Store and thus allowed on iPhone, the site says iOS browser apps must use WebKit. That means, on iPhone anyway, no matter the optimizations made to their own engines, competing browsers can only go as fast and as far as WebKit will allow. So why are Mozilla and Google wasting their time? Well, one could argue that any endeavor that increases knowledge is not a waste of time. Really, though, they might not be wasting time, but racing it. The Apple Insider piece on Google's experiment highlights proposed changes in law that could encourage/force Apple to change its WebKit requirement. For example, the piece says Europe's Digital Markets Act aims to force Apple into making changes to how it allows developers access to iOS as a whole, including the possibility of enabling third-party app storefronts. Since other stores will be able to set their own rules about app content, that means a browser offered through a third-party store wouldn't be limited to the WebKit-only rule. As the EU goes, so goes the world? Well, maybe. Last week, the National Telecommunications and Information Administration released a report here in the States that would seem to push Apple down a similar path. Then again, that report assumes action by Congress, so holding your breath is not advised. For their parts, neither Google nor Mozilla look ready to anger the 800-pound gorilla that is Apple. Questioned by the Register in a separate report about its experiment, Google indicated that it was just that. The piece had a spokesperson saying, "This is an experimental prototype that we are developing as part of an open-source project with the goal to understand certain aspects of performance on iOS. It will not be available to users and will continue to abide by Apple's policies." Similarly, Mozilla was quoted as saying, "We abide by Apple's iOS App Store policies and are simply doing some exploratory work to understand the technical challenges for Gecko based on browsers on iOS. If these policies were to change, we hope the day will come when people can freely decide to use the browser of their choice, including the opportunity to select the engine that underpins it." Next time you visit Apple's site, don't freak out. 9to5Mac says there have been changes made focused on making it easier to navigate through different product categories. The secret ingredient, drop-down menus. Previously, the piece says the navigation bar on Apple's website was static and did not feature any kind of drop-down menus. This meant that you needed to click on an item in the menu bar to view more details, at which point you'd be redirected to the dedicated web page for that product category. So, if you wanted to know about iPhone 14, for example, you had to click iPhone, then on that page click iPhone 14. Now, you can just click iPhone 14 in the drop-down menu and go straight to it. The piece points to a similar change for Apple's mobile site. The nav menu is now in the upper right on the mobile site. Tap that and you're presented with a few product categories. Tap one of those and you get more granular choices all the way down, fingers crossed, to the exact product or solution for which you are looking. For those worried that Apple might turn to layoffs and the downturn, a real estate story that may allay that fear. Apple Insider says the Cupertino company has just signed a lease on a sizable office facility in Sunnyvale, California. The news comes just weeks after Apple finalized the purchase of a Cupertino office it had been leasing for about a decade. As for the new location, no word on how many workers it will support, nor what they will be doing. No word either on when they'll move in, though the Apple Insider piece says the company is already making upgrades to the office building's interior and exterior. Apple TV Plus is cranking the promo machine for an upcoming thriller. The Cupertino streamer issued a press release this week with info on and a trailer for the series Liaison, the first Apple TV Plus series in English and French. The release says Liaison is a high-stakes contemporary thriller exploring how the mistakes of our past have the potential to destroy our future. Yay! Combining action with an unpredictable, multi-layered plot where espionage and political intrigue play out against a story of passionate and enduring love. Short and potentially savory, this one. The first of 6 episodes hits Friday, the 24th of February. They will run one a week every Friday through the end of March. Between now and then, you can catch the trailer on YouTube. And finally today, if you have ever dreamed of opening your own Apple museum, there is a starter kit available on eBay. Apple Insider says the retro computing website vintageapple.org is selling a truckload of old Macs, displays, drives, printers, and Mac paraphernalia, but you will need to bring the truck. According to the piece, the giant collection includes over 500 Mac-related items, including Apple Lisa computers, Macs, add-in cards, displays, printers, and old Mac laptops. It also includes not just whole units, but also spare parts for Apple's first laser printer, the Laser Writer. Man, that was a machine. See something you like? Well, you have to buy it all. The sale is for the entire lot only, according to Apple Insider, and it will not be broken up. Also, you will need to head west to get it. Or north or south, depending on where you are. East, maybe, but it's on the West Coast. The collection is located in Santa Barbara, California. The final buyer must pick up all equipment in person, according to Apple Insider. Road trip! Starting bid on the auction is $10,999 so far. Not a single bid. It ends in 3 days. Best of luck. Hey, speaking of things for sale, let's check on that other auction I told you about earlier this week. Bids look slow and low for the mint in-box original iPhone I told you about on Monday. The woman selling it is hoping for somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 to fund her tattoo studio. As of this writing, bidding stands at just under $17,000. That auction ends on the 19th of February. You can follow along at lcgauctions.com. Today on the Mac Observer's Daily Observations podcast, TMO writer Nick DeCorval and I talk Apple's place in the gaming space, how it might get to a better place, and whether it's even worth it to try. That is all today on the Daily Observations podcast from the Mac Observer, online at macobserver.com or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.